Hi everyone, and thank you for joining me. I'm getting a little air today. I'm outside. Thought I'd do this podcast from outside. Hopefully this goes well without interruptions. But okay, today I wanted to do something about my hometown, my home city, Chicago. And excuse the appearance. I'm just getting over the flu, so I didn't really feel like going all out and wrapping and curling the hair today and all that good stuff. So this is really the first day I've been out in a couple of days, so hopefully this goes well for both of us. But I want to talk about Chicago. I just read, I believe it was yesterday, that Chicago has 135 murders this early in the year. Not good. Not a good thing. There's a lot of stuff happening in Chicago, but I wanted to, go on record and say Chicago is just not the murder rate. It's more. It's more than a murder rate. I was actually talking to somebody recently, and they were saying that, a couple of people, as a matter of fact, and they said they had relatives that lived in Chicago, and, people were fearful to go outside, and, you couldn't go anywhere in Chicago. And I kind of had to set the record straight with that. You can go places in Chicago. Yes, it is a big metropolitan city, so there are millions of people stacked and crammed and crowded in a small space. So when you put those elements together, unfortunately it didn't always yield perfect results. And I think that's one of the problems that we're having in Chicago. We have so many people, not enough housing, not enough land space, and people are kind of, moods are, patience is short, and so that's one of the things that happen. But at the same token, what's being represented in the media is really a small portion of who we are as a city. And yes, I still identify with Chicago. I spent over 20 years in Chicago. I was born in Chicago. So I do identify with it. And just to let you know, one of the reasons I moved, I had two reasons for moving. The first one, like I just said, I spent 20 years in a place, and I wanted to see if I didn't want to I had got complacent, with my surroundings of my life, going to work every day. So I wanted to shake it up a bit. So I moved. It had nothing to do with the crime in Chicago. It had nothing to do with I was afraid to come, walk down the streets of Chicago. And the second reason is, there are over a couple million people in the city. So when you put that many people, it's busy. It's traffic. It takes a long time to get one place to another place. You're always on the go. And, the city should be called New York because Chicago doesn't sleep either. So, that was another thing. And I wanted to write my book, so I wanted to get away from that a little bit, and slow down. So that was my reasoning for leaving Chicago. Nothing else. That's why I left. I'm proud of the city. The city, I supported myself in that city for 20 years. I raised 2 children. Every young person, especially minority young person that comes from Chicago or that lives in Chicago, is A, not on drugs, B, not in a gang, 3, have been, will be, or are currently incarcerated, 4, disrespectful to their parents, and don't feel that education is important. That's a stereotype. That's a stereotype. I have a 24-year-old daughter who, I know you just stopped right there and say, no, there's no way. I didn't think she was thought she was 32, 33 at the most. So I know I just blew your minds right there. I have a 24-year-old daughter that has her degree in psychology. That's currently, last year, around summertime, she started a catering company. She's doing very well. you know, and none of those things I just said earlier apply to her. And she was raised in Chicago. You know, there were times in my life that I moved for a moment to a suburb, but for the majority, 80% of her life, she was raised in Chicago. My son is 21. You know, all the same things apply to him. He's actually helping me in my company. He's like a pro at computers. Respectful, the same thing that I said earlier. And guess what? He was raised in Chicago. My goddaughter, yes, I've claimed her. She's currently in grad school, completing her master's. Raised in Chicago. My, you know, several young ladies and young men that hang with my son and daughter, you know, they're doing their thing out there. They're not a problem. They're, you know, but nobody talks about that in Chicago. You know, we're not all drugs and gangs. I didn't have any problems. You know, I'm not saying there are no problems in the city. That's not what I'm saying at all. And yes, we do have those areas where, you know, it is difficult to get to and from school because they're drug and gang infested. So it's a challenge to learn. We do have those areas where, you know, I wouldn't advise you to go in an alley at 2 a.m. in the morning. But guess what? I wouldn't advise a person that's by themselves to go anywhere at 2 a.m. in the morning, whether it's jogging through, you know, quote unquote safe areas, the suburbs, surrounding cities, or other states. You know, it's a beacon for an opportunist. And unfortunately, the people that do those things aren't like you and I. They're waiting, they're preying on, you know, an opportunity. So I wouldn't advise that. But no, Chicago is a great place, and it has a lot to offer. It's probably one of the most beautiful cities, like with the skyline. If you ever go down Lake Michigan, the beach is great. The coast of the lake, the scenery itself, the skylines, it's great. You know, we just get a really bad reputation. It's a small number of people that are, you know, shedding light, or their light is, how do I say it, overshadowing all of the great people in the city. You know, the young people that we can be proud of, the people that, you know, they're getting straight A's, or they're really good kids to their parents, or they're volunteering. You know, we have some of the most greatest green initiative projects and young people that's speaking out and about our issues today, but that gets overshadowed by the few who don't care about themselves or society, and for whatever reason, you know, someone were dealt a bad hand. I mean, it is what it is. You know, it's difficult. Sometimes it's difficult to overcome as an adult when you're in a stable environment and you don't have people that have addictions. So let alone, you know, you're coming up through the ranks and you are in households where there are abusive parents and, you know, perhaps addictions and, you know, just a lot of stuff to overcome. So the city as a whole is dealing with a lot. And then you got to remember, programs are being cut. You know, funding is being cut. So now you have all these people in an area and now they can't work. You know, it's not an excuse. It's just the reality of the situation. So, yeah, you know, tempers are short. People are more desperate than they used to be. So that adds to it. That adds to it. So what we need to do is stop sensationalizing what's wrong with the city and start focusing on how to make, you know, the people that are doing what they're supposed to and being beacons of light in Chicago, and let them shine and stop being overshadowed by the people that aren't. We need to start getting up on our podiums and being more conscious of what needs to be done in our communities and our neighborhoods with our education. You know, we put more emphasis on a person that can, play hockey, we're willing to give them $1 million of contracts, but then we won't pay our teachers or our police officers or our firemen, people that they're there for us every day. We just, I think we sensationalize the wrong thing. So before you be quick to judge about Chicago, and the problems that we have, see if you're one of those people that can get up on the podium and stand for what's right and how to change the image of Chicago, and not just Chicago, any other big city that's having the same problems that we are. So that's all for now. I just wanted to kind of shed a little something on Chicago, and just staying positive. And thank you so much for joining me. Hope to see you later. Bye-bye.